Doot, doot, doot. Welcome back to the Shane Family Eyewitness News in episode 5 of the Shane Family Adventure. Now in this episode, the Shane family is in Acadia National Park. And this amazing park had so many things to offer and so much to do that we had to put this into 2 episodes. So coming up here, we'll have a special guest in our newsroom today to share with us what they learned and experienced while in Acadia. But first, let's go to Roger and check out the Shane family route. Over to you, Roger.
Thank you, Linda. So as you might remember, the Shane family was last seen at Camden State Park, right here. And then they drove around the coast onto Mount Desert Island. And then they drove around right here into the Scudic Peninsula. Now let's go back over to Linda, because she has some news for you.
Thank you, Roger. Linda here back in the newsroom, and we are with a special guest today, Riley Shane himself. He's here to tell us a little bit about this amazing Acadia National Park. And to start with, Riley, where is it and how big is this park?
Well, Acadia National Park is located along the middle coast of Maine. The largest portion includes much of the land on Mount Desert Island, as well as Isles of Holt, the Scudic Peninsula, and 17 other coastal islands. Overall, the park covers 49,052 acres, with 30,300 of those being on Mount Desert Island. Although it is one of the smaller national parks, it is one of the most visited parks. It is also unique in that because most of the land was donated by private landowners. That's why you can see little villages and little towns.
Very interesting. So it just wasn't one big old conglomerate of land. It was little bits of pieces of land that got donated after people owned them to make up the park.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Well, Riley, it sounds like you're learning a lot about the place. Do you mind sharing with us and the viewers at home a little history of the area and how this park came to be?
Well, Linda, there's so much to cover about the history to the area that we can't really cover it here. But in a brief, the area was home to the Paleo people and Native Americans as far back as 11,000 years ago. Tribes of the area included Penobscot, Passamaquoddy, and Mi'kmaq and Malice tribes. Together, this group was known as the Wabanaki, or People of the Dawn. There is a record of the Europeans to the area as early as 1524. However, it was not until 1604 when Samuel Champlain recorded a more detailed description and map of the area that Europeans became more interested in. It was after that the English and French started competing for the area for several decades. It was in the mid-1800s that tourism came to the area, which brought another source of income besides fishing. Wealthy started to come to build their summer cottages. And this area became known as the vacation land.
It is a great place to take a vacation, I tell you.
It is. By the beginning of the 1900s, wealthy businessmen started buying up all the land to preserve it and use it as a tax break by putting the land in a tax-exempt chart.
Interesting. So they preserved the land, but they also had ulterior motives to save them a little money, huh?
Yes. Around 1913, the government started to question this practice. George Dorr, one of the businessmen, suggested they donate it to the federal government. So by 1916, the national park was created. Dorr spent the rest of his life and fortune expanding on the park, and this guy is known as the father of Acadia.
Wow, that is really interesting. So this one man's vision kind of started the whole national park and got other people to donate their land to create it.
Yeah.
That's very cool. So I was doing some research myself in preparation for meeting up with you, and I read a little bit about a gentleman who in 1688 was given about 10,000 acres from the King of France, King Louis. Gave this gentleman, French lawyer Antoine Lamette, and he came to the area, and in wanting to be more noble or be a more important person than he really was, he gave himself a more noble name and a fake coat of arms. So he changed his name to Antoine de la Mothe Sieur de Cadillac and created this fake coat of arms. And he stayed in the area about a year, and then decided there wasn't enough like social happenings going on for him. And so he went to what's now the Detroit, Michigan area, founded Detroit, and the Cadillac automobile that we see today uses an actual modernized form of his coat of arms on their vehicles. So Cadillac was named after Sir Cadillac, and they use the coat of arms on their hood ornaments today. Later on, the land was granted to his granddaughter, who went to the area and started selling off portions of the land at 100 acres at a time for only $5. So that was a steal of a deal back then.
It was. I got something for you. What is a coat of arms?
A coat of arms is like a shield that denotes certain patterns and colors that represent like your family, and so he had a fake one made. Most noblemen or European royalty had a coat of arms that represented their family that they would carry on a staff to war.
Very interesting.
Yeah. Well, so anyway, the land, these are some of the only land titles that can be traced back to the King of France, is some land titles in the area where she was selling off land that had been granted to her grandfather.
Very cool.
Yeah, very interesting. So Riley, the other thing I noticed around here is there's tons of granite. Like the mountains are 100% granite, and they're all smoothed off and rounded at the tops of them. The coastline is all like granite and volcanic rock and like old mudded seabeds that are along the shores. But there's just rock everywhere. Can you give us a little geologic history of this area?
Well, Linda, again, there's so much to talk about in the geologic history. Involves volcanoes, ancient seabeds, and collisions and glaciers.
Wow, sounds like little lions and tigers and bears, oh my.
Yes. You can see about 550 million years ago, two smaller pieces of land broke off a bigger piece of land and then crashed into the coast of Maine. This caused an upheaval of volcanic granite and ancient seabeds to make the mountain range in this area. Then came along the Ice Age that created glaciers that went 350 miles out into the sea.
Wow.
Creating large glacial marina and underwater ridge called Georgia Banks. But we'll leave that off to the side for now. Anyway, the flowing glaciers rounded off and smoothed the top of the mountains, leaving them round granite mountains. This is what they looked like. As the glacier receded, it pushed down on the coastline, tilting it permanently toward the ocean and exposing the rocky coastline. Here is a cool view of the rocky coastline.
Really fascinating. So this seems like a very, very old area then. I've also seen a lot of different plants and animals here, and I've heard that it's one of the most nutrient-dense gulfs or bodies of water in the entire world. Could you share with us a little bit about the ecology of the area?
Well, Acadia is full of a whole bunch of amazing plants and animal life. The area has around 33 species of freshwater fish.
Wow.
And 1,100 different species of plants. 330 different species of birds.
Good for bird watching then, sounds like.
Yes,
Bird
very
lovers, come here.
Bird lovers.
Lovers.
Oh. The Gulf of Maine is home to around 632 fish species, 32 mammal species, and around 700 microscopic plant species.
Wow, so it sounds like that's good feeding grounds then for things. Keep them living.
Yes. Some of the species include aquatic life, include starfish, mussels, sea cucumbers, crabs, lobsters, clams, scallops, oysters, dog whales, sea urchins, to name just a few. Let's take a look at some fun videos.
Cool. Let's take a look at those.
Sea stars here in our facility. Most of the large prickly ones are going to be North Atlantic sea stars, with the exception of this licorice colored guy right there and the big purple one wedged between that cinder block and that block. Those guys are our Forbes sea stars. We also have a bunch of teeny tiny red ones. Those guys are our blood stars. In fact, there's one underneath this rock who I will take out for this video so he can say hi to us. That's this little guy. This is about as big as these guys will get. They're a very small species of sea star. Now, a close cousin of these guys are going to be our sea cucumbers. So this guy right here, stuck to the wall, is one of our sea cucumbers. He currently has his feeding arms retracted, but if you look at this guy, he's hungry. He is real hungry. So those are what he's going to use to, of course, catch his food and eat it. He kind of lives life licking Cheeto dust off of his fingers, so he'll take an arm at a time, bring it into his mouth, put it right back out to catch more food. These guys are constantly eating.
And how do they breathe?
These guys, their gills are located inside of their anuses. So, very fun fact about sea cucumbers. So, of course, you've got the mouth side. Here is the back side. You can kind of see that hole that opens and closes periodically. That is him breathing. So their gills are located where the sun doesn't usually shine.
You are right, Linda. The Gulf of Maine is known as one of the most nutrient-rich gulfs in the world.
Oh.
A single teaspoon of Maine seawater can hold up to 1 million phytoplankton when it's in the bloom.
Wow, that would be one salty but very nutritious teaspoon of water.
Yes, it would be. The combination of water temperature, the mixing of the fresh and salt water, and the extreme tide changes all that contribute to the biodiversity of the Gulf's water.
Well, how exactly do those things help?
Well, the fresh water brings nutrients from land to ocean. The extreme current and tide changes to help scatter the eggs and larvae throughout the Gulf more evenly.
Oh, that makes sense. Wow, so it sounds like you really learned a lot about this area and know a lot. Is there anywhere I could go if I want to read up on more?
Well, Linda, the National Park Service has been really great resources in their pamphlets, discovery boards along trails, and online. Another really great source is my family have found and read together was this guidebook by James Kaiser.
James Kaiser, is that what you said?
Yes, this Acadia book. I'll twirl around. He does not endorse this episode, but we thought it really helped us, and it's a really great book with so much information that we relied on. And even if you guys don't plan to come here, you should definitely pick this book up just for fun.
Well, it sounds like great. I'll do that. Thank you so much, Riley. And I guess that's the end of this episode, but we'll be back again, right, to look at some of the things that you and your family did while in Acadia, right?
Yes. Bye.
Bye.